Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Everybody, happy Monday, a Victory Monday here on Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo, Jim Sinicropi, Kyle Evans, we are scattered across the US of A this Monday morning, recapping the Bills' victory over the Tennessee Titans, find themselves back in the win column 34-10. We'll jump in to a couple headlines from the past week. I think one we should probably preemptively do before the recap even. And then we'll obviously preview the Week 8 matchup against the Seahawks in Seattle coming up next Sunday. So, of course, the way podcasting works, guys, we wrap up obviously last Tuesday's podcast because the Bills playing prime time on Monday night. And lo and behold, the Bills go out and we got a trade for a wide receiver on the heels of the Jets getting a deal done for Davante Adams. The Bills brought in Amari Cooper, and pretty much we see a little bit of an immediate impact yesterday in the game. Quick breakdown of the trade with the Browns. Cooper comes with a 2025 sixth-round pick. The Bills sent a third-round pick in 2025 and a 2026 seventh-round pick. Bills money-wise only owe Cooper the veteran minimum on his deal. Browns handling all the rest via restructuring, free agent at the end of the year. But Kyle, this solves a pretty big immediate need that we've been discussing for the better part of a few weeks now.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot last week. We said that, they needed to add somebody. Amari Cooper was the name that we talked about a lot. And, to go out and get a guy like that, that's pretty cheap. And a guy that's going to make an immediate impact like he did yesterday. And a veteran guy as well, a guy that you can trust. And I think with his presence alone, it opens up other things for the other receivers that have actually been having trouble getting open. We saw that yesterday, and I think we'll continue to see it more and more. So I love the move, and it was nice to follow up what the Jets did, even though apparently the Jets are never going to figure out how to win regardless of what they add.
Yeah, they can't blame Robert Saleh for last night. That's for sure. Jim, you were the one really I'd say critical of the Bills not being able to really get anybody in, and they get so in Cooper. And I know this might be a little bit jumping ahead, but 4 receptions, 66 yards and a touchdown yesterday. He doesn't know the playbook. I mean, just instant impact for Amari Cooper with the Bills.
Yeah, it was the right after last week's show that they made the signing. We were speculating on some candidates, and Amari Cooper was one of them. And then it became a done deal, and he made an immediate impact. And for all the reasons stated in last week's show, they needed a true number one type receiver to complement the rest of the weapons at Josh Allen's disposal, and they got it. And I'm going to call him from here forward the Cooper Scooper.
All right, I'm with it. Yeah, let's transition over to the game yesterday because I mentioned, right, immediate impact, and it's pretty interesting. I guess, I know they talked about in postgame a little bit how he still doesn't know the full playbook. The touchdown route he ran yesterday, I guess, was one that he more or less just kind of riffed on his own. He didn't know what to actually do. And it ended up being pretty big, at least in the moment, especially. The score doesn't indicate it, right? 34-10. But the one thing, again, that I noticed more so than yesterday, and really it's my only true, I think, negative about the game for the Bills. Again, just offensively struggling a little bit out of the gate here. And not so much really even the defense. Like, the defense again just played super, super well, right? And I know they gave up the early score, but like it goes back to something we talk about a ton where it's just like you only give up 10 to 20 points, whatever it may be, week to week. You should be winning games in the NFL like that. And just sluggish out of the gate for the Bills. You know, just doing the quick box score run of it, right? No points in the first quarter. They get the touchdown in the second, and then they really take off, obviously, in the second half. But again, just struggling initially out of the gate.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that Cardinals game week one. The Bills were down digits at home, and then something clicked right before the half, and then they just started clicking on offense and ran away with it. And that's how it was yesterday. I mean, the Bills, kept going 3-and-out to begin the game. I think it was 4 3-and-outs, just 90 first half yards, and they turned it up in the second half, 27 points, held the Titans to 0. So yeah, I do want to see the Bills though stop. They got to stop doing this, because if they play another great team, they fall behind early like that. That's not going to end well. Luckily, they're playing the Titans, who are starting Mason Rudolph as their quarterback. But yeah, either way, they're 5-2, and you'll take that certainly after looking at the schedule. And they have a 3-game lead in the AFC East as well. Technically, kind of 3.5, because they have they've already beat the Jets. So yeah, I mean, you can't really complain though, regardless, because this league is crazy as we see every week.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think in the NFL that you got teams, coaches kind of script the first drive sometimes or two, and coming out like the Bills did against the Titans isn't going to work against the Ravens or the Chiefs. You can't dig yourself a hole like that, and so I think they need to kind of reevaluate what they're doing in terms of game planning for the first quarter. It seems like they're able to make adjustments. Everything's able to settle in, and then the Bills take over and dominate. But that's against inferior competition. It does, as we saw a couple weeks ago against the Ravens. That doesn't necessarily work against a good team.
yeah, and I mean, this upcoming week, not to get too far ahead, obviously, again, but they got the Seahawks, who, I mean, I consider them a good team. They're a little bit of a roller coaster, to put it bluntly. I mean, 4-3 now, and yesterday was probably the best they've looked in a couple weeks collectively. But I mean, again, that's a pretty good team. Definitely a step up, to say the least, from the Titans. So we'll get to more of that though in a little bit. Josh Allen, 300-yard game, 323 yards total, 2 touchdowns, and once again, no interceptions, no turnovers coming from Josh Allen. The streak continues for him. Leading rusher for the first time this year, Ray Davis, the rookie, 5 carries for 41 yards, a touchdown, had 1 reception for 6 yards. And it looked like, to me anyway, for the most part, just the Bills really couldn't get going on the ground necessarily. Tennessee did a pretty good job up front, but that considered, I mean, just they were giving up everything through the air. And so the Bills just, I think once they kind of fully realized, like, hey, this whole entire establishing the run thing probably not going to work out today. When they went to the full air assault, just, I mean, really pulled away when it mattered most.
Yeah, and I think James Cook maybe wasn't 100%. He did return from that foot injury. And yeah, I think the game plan kind of just changed. The second half, they were airing it out more. They're moving the ball better when they threw the ball. So yeah, I don't really take too much into that. I think James Cook, bounces back next week, has a big week like he's been having. But yeah, Ray Davis has been a nice surprise too. A draft pick that's been producing for the Bills, and in addition with Ty Johnson, who caught a touchdown as well.
Yeah. It's crazy because, I mean, I remember Davis at Kentucky, being the college football fan I am, and he's just blending in pretty well with this Bills offense. Not saying that they're both similar in nature, them in Kentucky, but for a team the past couple years in Kentucky that They have not been afraid to air the ball out. It was nice to see Ray get a little bit involved with that, but more importantly, maybe get himself established as really trying to be that true number 2 guy for the Bills behind James Cook in that sense that they can turn to. And you see that a lot in the NFL, right? Where it's kind of this 1-2 punch of running backs for the most part now. I mean, top of my head, you see Pittsburgh try and do it. Sometimes not as well, but I mean, hey, we talked about the Jets. The Jets probably have, in my mind, the best 1-2 combo whenever they actually get fully unleashed in Hall and Allen. So, you have guys like that you can turn to. It makes life a hell of a whole lot easier as a play caller. All right, let's see what else here. Speaking of rookies, Keon Coleman, your leading receiver yesterday, 4 receptions for 125 yards. Nice to see him break out a little bit, as I called it. Did have a couple bigger plays, but for a guy that we even last week kind of was wondering, like, what's his deal at this point? Nice to see him kind of come out of what this Amari Cooper trade, and at least in the early sense, maybe get some freed up space. Maybe that's what he needed a little bit more of. Who knows? But
Clearly a beneficiary of the Cooper trade.
yeah. I mean, hopefully that's the case, right? Where he can just break out and be maybe not necessarily the number 1 the rest of the way. I think that's kind of go fall on Cooper de facto speaking. But
He's the Devonta Smith to AJ Brown.
Yeah,
it's like that's the comparison I make.
Yeah, that's a good call actually on that one. Now that you say that, because I mean, similar sized guys, similar skill set, you would hope anyway, at least on the Coleman to Cooper side of things. But yeah, I mean that's a really good call. Didn't think about that. Yeah, I mean, and I think it was nice. Now I could be a little bit off base here, but we saw Khalil Shakir on the field way more than we did last week. I don't know the actual percentage number right now off the top of my head, but 7 receptions, 65 yards for him. Maybe this gets him back into play where we kind of saw him maybe towards the start of this year, but maybe more importantly to like last year in a way where, he was your slot guy, your toy guy that you could kind of utilize his speed more so than his route running, and you can kind of, get more involved in that space now that you haven't really been able to this year.
Yeah, he did play 69% of the snaps. Did look more like himself. Had some yards after catch, which that's what he's great at. And yeah, but somehow I look and Mac Hollins played 75% of the snaps. I think moving forward they got to stop with him. It's got to be Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, and Keon Coleman. Out there with Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid. They have to start moving forward with those guys. The Mac Hollins, the Curtis Samuel, just move on from them guys. I mean, they're still going to be on the team, but stop getting them so heavily involved. Those are your 3 main guys mixed in with one of those tight ends, and your offense should be rolling. And then, in addition with James Cook in the backfield. So, yeah, I did like what I saw, though, from Shakir, and I think it's only going to get better. Like I said, Amari Cooper is going to open things way up for Coleman and Shakir.
I had to listen to the game on the radio yesterday driving down to Virginia, which I don't mind. It's fun listening to the game. But one of the things that I couldn't see was, did Shakir look 100%? Because just by the workload, I had a feeling that, he's still maybe only 80%. He's still a little hampered by the injury. Did you see that watching it on TV, or did it look like 100% back to normal?
I mean,
yeah, no, I think he definitely isn't 100%, but he was starting to look more like himself. So maybe next week, it's even bigger. He plays more snaps, looks even faster. But yeah, I mean, you have a good point there.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah,
I don't know if he was
out there 100% of the time. He should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know if he was 100%, but I thought he did look better than last week when he was out there. I mean, like Kyle said, it probably was trending more like 80% or something like that. But like I thought moving wise he looked better. He didn't look like uncomfortable, right? Like
yeah,
just looked like he was going about his business a little bit better. Yeah, I mean the only other really receiver of note through the air anyway to bring up was Kincaid, 3 receptions for 52 yards. I mean, other than that, it was just guys in single digits and maybe not even getting receptions at all. to me, if you're the Bills, man, if Coleman, Cooper, Shakir, Kincaid, and then you throw in your running backs, if those are your main 4 or 5 guys through the air every week, that's a pretty good thing as it stands right now. Not a knock, like we've been saying, say on like Mac Hollins or Curtis Samuel, especially at this point. I saw early in the game yesterday, um, he was getting talked to on the sideline by, I'm assuming it had to be one of the position coaches, because it was just, he was lost out there pretty much right away. So I'm imagining got Cooper in the play now. This is your group of guys. And if you're an offensive fan, right, you got to be excited as it stands right now. I thought you got a pretty good glimpse. And this is from with Cooper not knowing a ton right now about the playbook. I think you got a pretty good sense of what's really possible with this Bills offense now moving forward for the season.
Yeah, on paper, it looks really strong. Like you said, Cooper's snap count's definitely going to increase next week. And yeah, I just think Josh, again, is going to be able to spread the ball around. A lot of focus is going to be on Cooper, and then it's going to open the other guys up. And hopefully Keon Coleman can really take off now, first 100-yard game in the NFL. What I liked about Coleman yesterday, too, is he had 2 big 40-plus yard plays, yards after catch. He got separation, got open. That's what you need to see more, and the Bills haven't really done that a whole lot. If they can get this offense really going, I mean, they're going to be tough to beat, because the defense, I mean, we've seen them time and time again doing outstanding work, especially in the second half.
Yeah. Let's transition over here to the defense now. Look, we've been talking a ton about them obviously all year. This was another super standout game really for the defense. And this was from, I mean, maybe things not looking, like I said, initially maybe not great, but I mean, really it ended up being another fantastic game. Dorian Williams led the game in tackles. And then I noticed for the first time really in a broadcast this year for them, got some flowers for his work. They brought him up on the broadcast, talked about how he's kind of stepped up with the team being kind of dinged up on that side of the ball. And look, he's the team's leading tackler now, led the team again yesterday in tackles. The guy is everywhere. And it's one of those things where I remember like last year, we were talking about Terrell Bernard with it. Hopefully Dorian Williams is kind of the breakout star of the Bills defense this year. And not, I know this is really looking way down the road in a way, but maybe you get a nice, at least 1-2 punch out of him and Bernard, and, you get some of these other guys back eventually or back to full health. I mean, I know we talk about them and we begin with wildflowers, but man, this defense is kind of like a sky's the limit type territory in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the craziest stat I have for you today is in the last 3 games, the Bills have allowed just 9 second-half points. That was against the Texans, Jets, and then now the Titans. So just 9 points in the second half combined by 3 games. I mean, that's just terrific defense. We talk about it all the time with names that, we would have never even thought of or even sometimes even heard of before the season started. And then, yeah, I mean, AJ Epinesa had a sack mixed in there. He's a guy that, not a lot of people talk about. And then DeMar getting another interception. I mean, yeah, the defense just, it's amazing what they've done. And the Bills, are lucky that they have a defense that, can play like that, because a lot of teams' defense is not what the Bills are.
I think that's kind of the low-key one of the things I'm most excited about with this Bills team. And it's funny when you look at the NFL, when Patrick Mahomes first came on the scene and the Chiefs started, winning Super Bowls, they had good defenses, but the offense was just so prolific. And it seemed like that was almost a trend across the NFL, that no matter how good your defense was, you're not going to be able to stop these offenses. So you're just going to have to outscore people. But now, if you look at the Chiefs as the standard bearer in the league, they got one of the best defenses in the league, and their offense is like average statistically compared to the rest of the league. So I think it's important that the Bills have one of the top 5 defenses in the league heading into the playoffs. And despite the some of the personnel that's out there that maybe you wouldn't think would contribute to that strong of a defense, they're getting it done defensively.
I mean, yeah, it was crazy. I know, Kyle, like you brought up Epinesa, and that was one of the things that stuck with me. I know numbers wise, right? He didn't maybe go over the top, right? 3 total tackles, 1 sack, which is big. I don't want to deny that, but my main thing watching the game yesterday was like he was everywhere, kind of causing chaos where he was supposed to be within that defense. Just one of those things where we've talked about him a ton. Again, I don't want to make it sound like we're just discovering him by any means because we aren't, but like it's just one of those things where it's just like if you were to go to a Bills fan a season and a half ago, right? Like they would probably call you crazy for talking the way that we're talking about some of these guys as it stands right now.
Yeah, and then I also want to shout out the secondary. I mean, Mason Rudolph ended up throwing the ball 40 times because they fell behind early in the third quarter and just had to throw their way back into the game. And the Bills defense only gave up 65 total yards in the second half. I know the receivers had some big drops. Calvin Ridley, I mean, didn't look like himself still. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed, especially with even a guy like Taylor Rapp still. Taylor Rapp's been a huge surprise and has been a big part of their defense. Taron Johnson, pass breakups yesterday. So yeah, I mean, the whole unit's playing well. And I think they're going to have a tougher test though that come this Sunday. But overall, you got to be happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Johnson and Rapp both had 7 tackles each. They were both top, tied for the third highest for the team yesterday. I mean, it's pretty big. By the way, the Damar Hamlin interception, I believe that now makes him tied with Sauce Gardner for career interceptions. Could be wrong.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, maybe for the year or something. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the fact that I can really prod at the Aaron Rodgers New York Jets right now. So yeah, I mean it's one of those things where it's yeah, they get a test coming up here with the Seahawks and we'll be there in just a moment, but man, it's tough not to give this team their flowers when they have moments like yesterday, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, we're 7 weeks in, and you look at the division, it doesn't even feel like it's competitive. That's the craziest part about it, and that's even with the Bills losing back-to-back games. So yeah, just incredible start, and it's still not going to get easier though. There's a lot of tough games coming up, but if you're a Bills fan, you like where they're at.
3 games clear and as you said, basically it's 3.5. Yeah, it's like unbelievable, really. The Jets are a joke. The Patriots are obviously in rebuild mode, and Dolphins' season was disrailed when Tua got injured. So it's just like, we're playing for home field advantage in the AFC, I think, at this point, barring any type of catastrophe. But, by the time to the Kansas City game, which is what, 3 weeks from now? Or 4?
4 weeks from now.
Yeah, so they got 3 more games, then Kansas City, then the bye. If they win 2 of their next 3 before that Kansas City game, then they're in just fantastic shape. If they win all 3 of them, forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks game is it's a tough game. It's at Seattle this week. That's a tough team. Dolphins in an interesting spot. Sounds like Tua's gonna be back, but I mean, like, who knows what you're actually going to get out of him? And then you're at Indianapolis, which, I mean, if they have Joe Flacco, then it's a little bit of a different story as it stands right now to me. But Anthony Richardson's showing signs of being a young quarterback to say the least. Plus, Jonathan Taylor's hurt, so who knows?
Yeah, but look, what are we talking about? We got to beat the Colts. We got to beat the Colts, right?
Right,
no matter who the quarterback is.
Right. That's why and then you go into this Chiefs game. I mean, the Bills are in a pretty, I mean, like you guys are saying, I mean, to me, the Bills are in a pretty good driver's seat-esque spot at the moment.
Absolutely.
And then it helps too that right after the Chiefs game, they have their bye week. So can't complain
I
about
got to be honest with you, going into the season, we didn't know it was going to be like this. We didn't know if the Bills were the best team in the AFC East anymore, or if they were a true Super Bowl contender. They made so many changes, and a lot of it was subtraction. They didn't really add a lot that we were excited about going into this season. But But here we are, and then the one thing that we were worried about, the wide receiver one, they got Amari Cooper, and so if you're a Bills fan, like you got to be ecstatic because I wasn't convinced that this was going to be a team that had a 3-game lead in the division at this point in the season, and was looking at top seed in the AFC East. You got some ground to make up on Kansas City, obviously, but you got what? Baltimore, Kansas City, and the Bills. The bad news for Bills fans is Baltimore kicked their butt already. But, I think we're up there in the conversation is one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. And I don't think that you could have said that with a lot of confidence preseason this year.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the conference standings here at the moment, the Bills, depending upon what happens tonight with Baltimore, they do have a leg up on them at the moment. Like I said, depends upon what happens tonight. Kansas City at the top, but then, Bills are technically tied for second. They're just at the bottom of it because of tiebreakers right now with Houston, Pittsburgh, uh, game and a half back. So, I think anything's really pretty much possible at this point. I don't see them getting below, if it ended today, they're at the 4th seed. I don't see them realistically going below that as it stands right now, if everything were to hold anyway.
Yeah, and to me, the AFC really hasn't been that impressive. I mean, you look at some of these teams like the Texans yesterday. I mean, they struggled offensively. Stephon Diggs threw a fit. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in that game, to say the least.
Yeah, and the Steelers, I mean, yeah, Russell definitely made them look better last night, and their defense is really good, but, how are they going to end up turning out? And then the Ravens play tonight. Pretty tough game for them, or should be an interesting game at least, at Tampa Bay. So yeah, I mean, the AFC to me, it just isn't that strong. I think the NFC is a little stronger, and the Bills are lucky they're in the AFC.
Yeah, smoking if you got them when you got them. All right, one last thing I want to bring up before we get to Seattle. We talked about it the past couple of podcasts really here, but the Bills did bring in a kicker later in the week last week to kind of not a true competition of sort. I know a lot of people kind of labeled it as a competition of sort at the moment, but Lucas Haversick signed to the practice squad, went 15-20 from field goals last year with the Rams in 2023. Brought in, I believe it was like week 8 or 9 last year from the Rams, if I remember reading right. Nothing more, I think, to me than like having a guy just kind of available just in case for the Bills. I don't read this one as being a true competition, just looking at the numbers that Haversick put up or has put up in his career. But certainly something to at least make note of, given the fact that we've seen some teams now cycle through kickers. And clearly the Bills, despite the financial ties to Bass, are at least paying attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it as the Bills just letting Tyler Bass know that like the leash is short and we're going to put some pressure on you and motivate you to get the job done because they can't afford to keep missing field goals. But yeah, overall, I don't think he's going to take his job. I mean, you look at his numbers; he's only had like 8 or 9 NFL games, and
yeah,
that's what I said about a lot of these kickers. I mean, are they really going to be better than Tyler Bass? I don't really think so. I think if you're going to try to get a kicker, that'd be something to do in the off season. Free agent wise, I just don't think there's any kicker out there that's going to be better than him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I'm just saying, time will tell. When he does things like shank the extra point last week, and there's going to be a time somewhere end of the regular season playoffs where he's trotting out there for a 54-yarder to either win or lose a huge game, and that's the only time we're going to find out. Is he going to either make it or miss it?
Yeah, I mean that's kickers for you. I was about to say the only
they're not moving away from Tyler Bass at this point.
No.
I just say they're not moving away from him at this point unless he like goes out and misses, 2 straight field goals next week, or if he like just totally craps the bed. But if he continues like he's going, misses one of every 5 or 6 kicks, maybe, I can't see them making the move. And so then we're going to get to the end of the season, and there's going to be these key games, and of course he's going to factor in, and he's either going to come through or not. And that literally will be the defining factor in how the rest of his career as an NFL kicker goes.
And remember, he missed from, I think, mid-40s against the Chiefs in that playoff game last year. We talked about it before. I know it was just going to tie the game and leave Mahomes a lot of time. But at the same time, you need that kick to be in. You can't miss that in that situation.
NFL coaches need a guy where when they decide to kick that, they already have the 3 points written down on the scoreboard. It can't be. And again, it's one of the hardest jobs in professional sports from the standpoint that there's no gray area when you're a kicker. You're either making them or you're missing them. And if you miss too many, you don't have a career anymore.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of put a bow on this a little bit, you look around, I would say half the league, give or take, and usually, when you get a guy, they stick with you and you keep them around, right? I mean, obviously Blake Bucker in Kansas City, Fairbairn in Houston, those are the two that stick out. But
Young Chuku, Chris
right.
Boswell. A lot of teams have them. I would say, 75% of NFL teams have kickers that they're perfectly content with, and the Bills aren't one of them. But they are right. They're on that borderline of where it's not, a consensus to move on from him. Like he's their kicker. So, how he performs for the rest of the year, like I said, is going to dictate his future with the Bills or with anybody in the NFL.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's also going to dictate, maybe if the Bills get to a Super Bowl or not. So it's up not for debate. It's up to wait and see, what happens here.
No, yeah, for sure. I think the only kicker in my mind that would have been available, and he's not, would have been McManus, but he went.
And he kicked the game winner yesterday. You
Correct.
saw that?
Yeah, Green Bay. Yeah, so
yeah.
Yeah, that's that. All right, let's get to week 8. Seattle Seahawks game in Seattle at Lumen Field. 4:05 kickoff on Fox, and Fox is touting this more or less as their game of the week anyway. I know it will be the A crew for the game for Fox there with Burkhardt and Tom Brady on the call for that. Weather, some clouds, high of 50, but it's Seattle, so I'd anticipate a little bit of moisture in the air. Your early betting line, Bills by a field goal, -3, -155 on the money line. Your over-under is 48.5. Geno Smith, 173 for 251 on the year, on 1,778 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Kenneth Walker, the third leading rusher for them. DK Metcalf, their leading receiver. Their defense started the year off really strong. Now a little bit kind of on the downward, 200 yards through the air, 146 on the ground. Like I said, this is in my mind, a pretty good Seattle team, but for the Bills, I view them as pretty beatable.
Yeah, I think they're definitely beatable. They just have a lot of offensive weapons that can hurt you at any time. So I think this is honestly going to be all on the defense. I mean, is the defense going to continue to play well? And I think that's the difference in the game. I think the Bills will score points. But yeah, it's kind of a rare meeting. They haven't played since 2020 and haven't played in Seattle since 2016. So I'm excited for the game. It's going to be a good challenge.
I think the best thing that could have happened to the Bills is that Seattle, won easy against Atlanta this week. Seattle seems like one of those teams that's going to finish right about 500, maybe 1 or 2 games above 500. So that means that in this NFL league, that if they look good one week, they usually don't look as good the next week. So I'm feeling pretty confident. Seattle supposedly is a tough place to play, but I don't think it's been really borne out that way the past couple of years. I don't have statistics in front of me. I don't think they have that dominant of a home field record. So it sucks having to go all the way across the country, but it's easier to go west than east and play a game.
Yeah, and the Bills might catch a break. DK Metcalf left yesterday with an injury. They said this morning it's not considered serious, but I mean that still doesn't mean he's going to play. So if he doesn't play, that's the Bills are catching a break there. That guy's a stud.
Yeah, he left on the cart, and they said it was just precautionary. And yeah, I mean, I quasi believe it because it was just a freaking blowout at that point when that happened. But like, I said this to a friend of mine because we were watching the games at that point, and I was just like, he looks like a kid who's like in the backseat of his mom's car, like upset that he has to go to the doctor. I'm like, look at him, like uh, they can say it's not serious, and I'll take them at their word for it as it stands right now, right? But like, he didn't look like he was having the greatest of time in that moment. So I think it's something that you have to monitor throughout the week with in regards to Metcalf.
Yeah, definitely. And even so, they still have weapons though. Jackson Smith and
Yeah.
Jigba. Tyler Lockett will be more involved if Metcalf is out. And then Noah Fant. What a name that is. He's been playing well. Their tight end there. So yeah, and Kenneth Walker. You can't forget him. He's big in their passing game as well. So they still do have guys that can perform and play well.
And you want to talk about guys with 1-2 punches with running back? I mean, Zach Charbonnet's been really good when he's had to step in for Walker in the number one spot as well. So
Yep.
they got a really good 1-2 combo for sure. All right. I think we can do our predictions as it stands right now. I'm feeling froggy enough. I was pretty damn close in a way. I think we all actually all our predictions were pretty close for the Titans game, if I'm being completely honest. I think we all
Yep.
overshot the Titans score anyway. But it's tough basing on this over under number because they're saying it's like a field goal game, thinking that they're leaning into the Seattle more offense than defense. I'm thinking I'm gonna go Bills 31, Seattle 20. I think that's what I'm gonna go with.
I got Bills 30, Seattle 24.
Oh man. First of all, I'm riding on Route 15 North in southern Pennsylvania, truly God's country down here.
If
A beautiful day.
you know, you know.
So okay. See, I kind of want to say this somewhere along the same lines that you guys said, but I do think the Bills will win, but I don't think there's going to be a runaway win. I think it's going to be something like 27-24. Tyler Bass, with 3 seconds left, knocks home a 47-yarder. How about that?
That would be awesome.
And shut us up.
Big confidence
So,
boost.
and as far as like the rest of the NFL yesterday, San Francisco, Kansas City was kind of a big showdown. You were mentioning how good the NFC is compared to the AFC, but not in that particular game. Kansas City's just pretty amazing how they keep winning, but it is amazing because they're just not that. They're not nothing about them other than Patrick Mahomes and maybe Andy Reid, I suppose, stands out. Their defense is elite. But to be undefeated, they just don't look like an undefeated team should look. They don't look as dominant.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes has thrown more interceptions than he has touchdowns. I mean, the offense certainly hasn't looked very impressive. The defense is winning them games, and even yesterday they scored a late touchdown to push it to 28. For a while they had 21. So the 49ers, didn't turn the ball over a bunch, and had more success on offense. It would have been more of a competitive game. So yeah, the Chiefs haven't been impressive, but then you look and they're 6-0. So I mean, you got to take them seriously.
Yeah,
That game was
yeah.
seriously some of the most ugly football I've witnessed all year.
Yeah, what's up with Brock Purdy?
I think
Hasn't looked himself.
he's regressed to the mean, as I call it.
And then Brandon Ayuk,
Well,
what
when
did
you
he
don't have
torn ACL?
Something.
He didn't have Ayuk. He didn't have Stebo. He didn't have Juwan Jennings. I mean, any team, I think that you take away your top three receiving threats, if you're not counting Kittle, just true wide receivers, and your starting running back, Christian McCaffrey. I mean,
That's
those
true.
four guys weren't there yesterday. So, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be a surprise, I guess. But, man, is Kansas City just blessed with, like, luck, all the officials' calls, um, you know. And just to give you an idea of what's going on down here, I just passed a fireworks store and a Donald Trump store. And then just up ahead, there was fireworks / Donald Trump store.
Yep.
So,
Wow.
a lot going on down here, southern Pennsylvania. If you want fireworks or Trump paraphernalia, there's plenty of spots to get it.
Yeah, that's a fun part of the country. That means you are nearing, of all places, Gettysburg. So,
Never fight uphill in me, boys.
yeah, we are off the rails with that one. But yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things where though, like you look around the league just as a whole, nothing overly impresses you really, outside of a few spots here and there. So, I said it earlier, say it again here. Sky's the limit, I think, for this team as it stands right now for the Bills.
First Super Bowl in franchise history is the goal, right?
Gotta be. Gotta be.
It's in play. It's in play, Bills fans.
All righty. I think that about does it then for the podcast today. We'll be back at it again next Monday at 10 a.m. I believe, right, everybody? We will be all back together as one, right, next week. I don't think Kyle, you're not going to Seattle, obviously, right?
No.
All
I'll
right.
be there.
Perfect. All right. Jim, safe travels back. Hopefully you can escape the US 15 conundrum and get back here to upstate New York in pretty good shape. Kyle, we'll see you later on in the week, obviously. Big weekend or big week for us as well. We got the Yankees in the World Series. Was hoping for a Subway Series, but we'll take one of the two for sure.
And we have another betting pot. I went perfect again. I don't know how you guys did, but
We don't rub it
we'll
in.
talk about it Thursday.
I think I did pretty good. I can't remember. I think I did pretty good this week. I know I won on Miami.
Yeah, I need to go back and fully do the results. I just know my picks were in the trash pretty quick, so got that going for me as usual. College just killed me again this week, which is how I got back in it. So, what are you gonna do?
You know, I just passed a tactical armory and an adult triple X theater.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly where you are now, actually. Oh man, yeah, just it's a different animal in Pennsylvania in those spots. My gosh. All right. Let's get out of here. Appreciate everybody for listening and watching. You can find Bills Weekly here on fingerleaks1.com and the fingerleaks1.com YouTube channel and all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. Back at it again next Monday at 10 a.m. Until then, enjoy the week, everybody.